Thanks and welcome to join me on the 6:15 News. I'm Kejang Henry Timbi. Back at the salat to all the Muslims community, our top stories. Back at the salat to the Muslims across the globe as they celebrate end of 1 month of fasting and penitence. In Cameroon, the message centered around peace to return in most conflict-ridden parts of the country. And the rift between Cameroon and the Republic of Chad deepens as Chad recalls its ambassador to Germany. Top stories. Across the country today celebrate. This morning, prayer sessions unfolded in different mosques across the country. Hyacinth throws more highlight on what the message was at the Chinga Islamic complex in Yaoundé.
Unable to contain the thousands of Muslim faithfuls who turn out here for the end of fasting prayers. The prayer session officiated by Imam Mufled Ben Zahad, who urged the Muslims to stick to the 5 pillars of Islam. Under good conditions, I am happy to be here, and Cameroon is a country of hospitality. A moment to re-echo the need for Cameroonians to build peace and unity, irrespective of ethnic and religious differences.
Peace and unity of this country. We are all brothers and sisters. Whatever the religion, we belong to. And that's the message that we should continue to keep. And you see, when we are together, last year we had some problem because of COVID. See, there's no one bearing, the mask. Not only because, doctors have done their job, but also because we all have prayed, for this illness, to go out. So we can, if we put our head together, we pray together, whatever the religion we belong to, you can, summon any mount.
A day of celebration as the sharing and merrymaking started right after the prayer session.
Thanks very much, Hyacinth. Just after the prayer session, the governor of the Central Region, Nasri Polbia, actually called on the Muslim youths to make sure that they celebrate and avoid irresponsible behaviors that put their lives in danger. He made that call just immediately after the prayer session at the Islamic complex in Chinga, where he encouraged Muslims on the end of fasting and prayers. Now let's get the reaction of the governors gathered for us by Hyacinth.
We have come to accompany our Muslim brothers in their end of prayer, end of fasting and prayer. And then that we have taken all the necessary measures for security to be in place. And we want to inform the youths who have taken a whole week to continue to feast with bikes and the rest, that they should do it more responsibly, the way Allah Himself wants it, so that they don't create incidents that will cause accidents or to create disorder or follow-up, to continue to accompany them. But there are measures which are...
Central Regional Governor Nasri Polbia talking there to Hyacinth immediately after the prayer session at the Islamic complex in Chinga, that is in Yaoundé. And in Douala, the message was that of peace to return to normalcy in the English-speaking part of the country, that is the northwest and southwest regions. Same prayer for inter-community conflicts to stop in the northern parts of the country as well as the western regions. Maureen D was at the Kambe 2 prayer ground in Douala and brought back this report.
The growing conflicts between communities, be it in the northern regions, the west, and the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest regions remain preoccupying to the Muslim community as they gathered in different mosques and prayer grounds to pray for a return to normalcy. At the explanade of the Central Post Office and in Cambeto prayer ground centered on peace between Cameroonians and for Allah to inspire the leaders with leadership skills. Southwest regions and in the known where the Magbas were at war with the Bamoons, we need peace and stability in our country.
Violence that we are facing all those days, but with this prayer, we think that many of them will be the ambassador of peace.
The prayer, I say that every public here is very good.
Il est aussi présent dans tous les autres mois. Le musulman doit respecter les autres comme il respecte Allah dans sa prière.
These Muslim cleric castigates Muslim faithfuls who only find themselves in mosque to feast during Ramadan and disappear later on to again engage in unholy practices. Their spiritual life with adorations to Allah throughout the year. The Imam of Cambeto, on his part, frowned at conflicts in the search of the moon, which had brought confusion in the feast. He invites all Muslims to legalize associations so as in homes.
No, thanks very much, Morinti, the chieftain of the Northwest region that facilitated the prayer service to end the 1 month fasting and penitence for thousands of Muslims and followers of Allah who actually respected the tradition to answer present at a joint prayer ground at Old Town in Bamenda. After heavy gunshots that rented the air last night, Ambo Gladys reports with calls from Northwest Chief Correspondent Annie Collins.
Against a backdrop of raining gunshots Thursday evening in Bamenda, Muslim faithfuls got up to a quiet Friday morning and went straight for prayers to break the month-long fasting. At the foot of the Station Hill open-air prayer ground, the Imam of the Bamenda Central Mosque prayed Allah Almighty to pardon the shortcomings of humanity.
We beg for forgiveness. Oh Allah, in whatever way mankind have offended you, Ya Allah, forgive mankind. We know our sins are too much. Killing, lies, life-stealing, fornication, adultery, and so on and so forth. May Allah bring everlasting solution in the problems in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon.
Deep in them, each of the thousands of faithfuls thanked the Most High for seeing through the spiritual journey.
Alhamdulillah, we thank God and fasted for 29 days because this month ended at 29. We fasted either 30 or 29 days. It was good.
We have been born in it, so I don't see any difficulty in it. We fast all the time, so fasting for 30 days is nothing.
Leading the administration to the holy event was Northwest Chief Executive, who thanked the Muslim community for the level-headedness in the midst of the security crisis.
I'm therefore grateful to the Muslim community who have prayed for peace in Cameroon, and I marry them who have sustained 1 month fasting for God to intercede for all of us, the nation, and the world.
Favored by bright weather, they all retired home to heavy feasting to fill the gap created by the fasting.
And in the far north region, precisely in Muturwa, the imams actually cautioned the faithful to make sure they respect the values of living together. As we get in this report, more in the courtesy our far north regional correspondent, Aliu.
It was a solemn moment for these Muslims as they converged for prayers after 1 month long fasting. We are in the far north region, precisely at Muturwa on National Road number 1. Prayers are ongoing under the spiritual guidance of His Majesty Muhammadu Aminu Lamido, the first-class chief of the area. The Imam centered his message on peace and living together, inviting all Muslims to be ambassadors of peace wherever they find themselves. He beckons on Muslim faithfuls to stand by values that lift rather than destroy. Imam Adama Hamadu says this can only be possible if the Muslims continue to embrace the doctrines of Allah.
Thanks, Maureen. And in Garwa, it was a message for the respect of the divine institutions of marriage and peaceful Garwa.
As early as 7 a.m., the Garwa prayer ground was jam-packed with Muslim faithfuls for the great prayer of Eid Mubarak. The prayer was led by the Imam of the Central Mosque, who cautioned against disrespect for marriage institution. To help us so that we all have a peaceful marriage. I thank the Lamido for having edified us on marriage, which is an important aspect of life. I just hope many Muslim faithfuls have listened to that message and that in the days ahead, the teachings will be implemented. His Majesty the Lamido of Garwa, El Rashidini Ibrahim, also focused his message on social cohesion and living together.
The Imam of the Central Mosque have just reminded us to reawaken our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to fulfill our duty upon us and upon our families. And in the second phase, the Lamidos of Garwa call on about good behavior between us and our spouses.
After the prayers, the Muslim faithfuls returned home to share and feast with family and friends, and this comes after 30 days of fasting.
Thanks very much. And to something else, young startups in Yaoundé have received basic knowledge on entrepreneurship that can help them breathe the odds at every stage in their life. And this initiative is out to make them to hook up with technological developments in the country. Report.
Most young business operators in Cameroon fall out of the process even before the stage of maturity for lack of basic knowledge and the constant repetition of common mistakes.
Small businesses have fallen away because they mix up family with business. There's no distinction between the business and the family. Sometimes a store will come and take rice to go and cook, they don't even record it and so on. The business is different from the owner.
Loopholes targeted during this one-day training workshop that brought together these startups on Friday, April 21st in Yaoundé, training them to do the needful in running successful businesses.
The training here is also helping businesses in the informal sector to be formalized into the formal sector by going through the formal registration and acquiring and making them become more legal and more acceptable by partners.
The small and medium-sized enterprises were also drilled on tips on how to meet up with the new business world imposed by technological changes.
You are moving digitally, different outputs, the different products that exist in the outside world today.
The initiative, which is taking place for the second time in the Central region, has equally started in 4 other regions of the country: the Littoral, West, the Northwest and the Southwest regions.
Between Cameroon and the Republic of Chad, the diplomatic standoff has pushed the Chadian authorities to call its ambassador to Yaoundé for consultations. When this diplomatic turnaround was made public, Canada International deployed its team of reporters to the Chadian authority, ambassador of the
calm and serene atmosphere at the Embassy of Chad, like ambassador's residence, this Friday of Ramadan here in Yaoundé. The ambassador is still to travel home for the consultation sermon we gathered. The bilateral problem between Chad and Cameroon is on the management of petroleum fund. Savannah Energy has decided to take the assets of ExxonMobil, shareholder of Cotco, to which Cameroon, like Chad, are parties. The sales of assets, big problem. The valorization of the assets of Exxon to Chad and Cameroon must be done with the consent of the Chadian side. This, as 80% of Chad's revenue is from petroleum exportation. This was not the case. The stake, very challenging. Savannah Energy From this, decided to sell 30% of its acquired stock to the state of Cameroon, that is SNH. Negotiation, according to experts, the best way out for both countries, considering the amount of risk taken by the Savannah Energy investors, an actor in Africa, already in Niger, Nigeria, and today Cameroon, mastering the Gulf of Guinea. After consultation and short discussion negotiation, many believe things will be back on track. Via the pipeline, the major fuel transportation route. A day after the live declaration on Chadian national television by the Minister Secretary General of the Presidency of Chad, Gali Gote Gata, on the matter, no official declaration yet on the part of the government of Cameroon.
Thanks very much, Beatrice Ngambo. And that is where we draw the curtains for this edition of the 650 News. I've been Kejang Henry Atembe, thanking you for your kind attention throughout the week with me. Coming up will be Marc Lionel Chouamou with le débrief de l'actualité. That will be in sports. And from all of us, we say goodbye and Baka de Salah as you continue in the feasting.